We're going to give it just a minute, of course, for people to get on here while I turn my air up because I'm absolutely freezing up in here, which makes no sense because it's 80 degrees, but it is what it is. So good morning, everyone. Hope you are having a wonderful Thursday. We have made it past the midpoint of the week. That's always a good thing. And right now, I'm actually not going anywhere special, just in case you're wondering. I am actually at this point of the day going to chop off the mop on top of my head. And, well, it's a quiet ride, so I figured, hey, why not come on here and do some Civil War talk, give you a couple of updates and what's going on new here on the channel, what's coming up, and some different things. And as we speak, there is a new episode coming up on the channel now. It is actually uploading as I am speaking to you. It is something I hadn't planned, actually. I had to go to Montgomery, Alabama at the spur of the moment day before yesterday. And while the wife was doing what she needed to do in meetings, I went out, of course, doing what I do, is I started finding some history spots. James, what's up? Good morning, buddy. How are you? Good friend of mine there. So I'm in Montgomery while the wife is in her meeting, and I start filming locations. We filmed, I think it was 2 episodes I ended up getting filmed in the course maybe 2 or 3 hours in Montgomery day before yesterday, just spur of the moment trip. We actually visited some very neat spots, including James is here from Project Pass. Good morning, James. How are you? So I ended up filming some really cool spots. One is a spot that I didn't know until recently even existed. So that I figured in my head, well, if I didn't know this exists, then there's probably a lot of other people that does not know that this place even exists. And it's a very cool place. The video is uploading on the channel as we speak. So after this live stream, you'll be able to probably go watch it not long afterwards. But it will be up today. Dustin's here. Good morning, Dustin. How's everything over in your neck of the woods, buddy? So we visited the spot where the telegraph was actually sent to PGT Beauregard from Montgomery when he was at Charleston, South Carolina, just outside of Fort Sumter on April the 11th, 1861. And that telegraph was given General PGT Beauregard the actual the permission to fire on Fort Sumter. Millsap Duo's here. Good morning, Millsap. Cyril, I can never say his name. I'm terrible. But anyway, that telegraph from the Southern Telegraph Company that was sent to General PGT Beauregard from the Southern Telegraph Company office in Montgomery, Alabama at the Winter Building was giving Beauregard permission to fire on Fort Sumter only if the Union Army would not agreed to turn over the fortification and evacuate, and only if there were, in the event of hostility, shots that were fired. Just call me by my first name, Nick. Okay, I will probably do that. So that telegraph actually gave Beauregard permission to fire on Fort Sumter up under those certain terms. And, well, as we know in history, the Union Army, up under the Union command there at Fort Sumter, refused to evacuate and give up the fortification, and so the artillery duel commenced. And that is where that telegram with those orders come from, was at this office in Montgomery, Alabama, and in my opinion, making it the actual place where the Civil War is going to really start, because of the things written in that telegram in that location. The Civil War ends up beginning with these shots on Fort Sumter. And there's a lot of things leading up to Fort Sumter that people often overlook. You've got events transpiring actually in the area where I'm at in Pensacola, Florida, where Fort Barrancas and Fort Pickens are going to have different things and exchange between them. There are actually going to be a couple of hostile shots fired in that location prior to Fort Sumter, but it's not really a huge event like Fort Sumter is going to be. And Fort Sumter is really going to become the backbone of the start of the American Civil War. But that telegraph of the place we covered day before yesterday that you're about to see on the channel today in Montgomery, Alabama, is where this telegraph is going to be sent from, therefore really making it where the Civil War actually begins. Of course, Montgomery is also going to be the home to Confederate President Jefferson Davis. He's going to have his first White House of the Confederacy in Montgomery. This is before he goes to Richmond. So in 1861, Davis is actually going to be in Montgomery, Alabama when the Civil War begins, and he's going to have his White House there. They're going to throw lavish and elegant parties at the mansion where this is going to take place. The mansion today sits right by the Alabama State Capitol in Montgomery. It's a very cool area. It's right by the Department of Archives and History for the state of Alabama, which is a really cool place to check out. If you're ever in that area, you have to go by and see it. Trust me, you won't be sorry. They have some really awesome exhibits there. But that is where Jefferson Davis is going to be. And we actually did go there. I do have a couple of shots of the first White House of the Confederacy that you will see in this episode today. But unfortunately, we did not get the permission to actually film there in time for this episode. And that is something that is actually in the works now. So we'll be going back to Montgomery to actually do that. It's a really cool place. And if you've never been to Montgomery, you've got to go check it out. A lot of civil rights history there. A lot of really cool, interesting things are going to happen in Montgomery over the course of history and during Civil War history. Another thing that we were able to visit is something I was really excited to find in Montgomery. I had no idea this existed either, and that is the graves of two famous generals that served at the Battle of Gettysburg. And both of them really are two of my favorite generals to dive into on the Southern Army side of the Southern campaign at Gettysburg. And this is going to be General William Oates and also Colonel Fry, later on to become Brigadier General Fry, who's going to be in charge, I think it's of the 13th Alabama, maybe the 15th, one of the two. Sometimes get the two mixed up. It's a lot of information to remember. But he is going to be there. Fry is going to be there the morning of July the 1st, 1863. He's going to be one of the main main regiments there that is going to assault the Iron Brigade on McPherson's Ridge. And his men are going to be just devastated. I mean, they lose a ton of men. And on July the 2nd, for most of the day on July the 2nd, he is put in reserve. But on July the 3rd, he is going to make the assault that we know of as Pickett's Charge on the high water mark of the Confederacy, right there along the Emmitsburg Road. So Fry is actually going to be involved in that. And so Fry does a lot of interesting things and takes a big part in the Battle of Gettysburg. He is now buried in Montgomery. He was a native of Virginia, I believe it was, and he actually went to VMI, West Point, and he was a graduate of those schools. So he was a very interesting individual, but he marries a lady that is from Montgomery, Alabama, and when he dies, he's returned home. They're buried together there today in the Oakwood Cemetery in Montgomery. So you'll see an episode coming up on the channel on that as well. William Oates is also buried in that same cemetery. William Oates, of course, is going to lead the 15th Alabama up Little Round Top to the Joshua Chamberlain and his men there of the 20th Maine. He's going to lead his men into several charges against the 20th Maine. And Oates, all the way up until his death, would say, if we only were given one more opportunity, a little bit more men, and another opportunity, we could have turned that left flank of the Union Army, which would have been, his opinion until he dies. So Oates later on goes to after the Battle of Gettysburg, goes on to become governor of the state of Alabama. He did lose his right arm at the Battle of Petersburg, and Oates is going to become a big name in Alabama as a governor. When he dies, there is a monument that is placed over his grave at Oakwood Cemetery, where you will see in the episode. It has a really cool statue of Oates on it, and his right arm is actually missing on the statue, depicting that wound he suffered at Petersburg. Oates fought in some very fierce battles outside of just Gettysburg during the American Civil War. Of course, Gettysburg is what he is most known for. His charge up Little Round Top several different times and several different attempts to take that rocky hill at Gettysburg that fails. So Oates is an interesting man to add outside of the Battle of Gettysburg. He has usually I'm got really good signal where I'm at now, so something must be going on with towers. But anyway, Oates is an interesting individual to actually dive into. So that was our trip to Montgomery, Alabama, day before yesterday. We got a couple of spots, and we did this in the course of an hour and a half. 2 hours. It was a fun little day, little morning adventure. And then I was back home by 3 o'clock that afternoon, sitting in the chair reading Simply Murder, the Emergent Civil War series book on Fredericksburg. And that leads me to what else is coming up on the channel. Fredericksburg is one of them. Fredericksburg is probably one of my favorite battles of the entire American Civil War there in Chancellorsville. Really, that whole Overland campaign is pretty much one of my main interests in the American Civil War. I love everything concerning the Overland campaign. So Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, Spotsylvania, Salem Church, the slaughter pen farm associated with Fredericksburg, of course, Cold Harbor. There's so many battlefields in that small area, and there's so many cool places to explore. And when I went to took this last trip for History Across America and that tour that I'm doing for you guys, when I went to Virginia a few weeks back, I absolutely loved every second of that trip. You will see Manassas coming up. You will see Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville. You'll also see maybe some Colonial Williamsburg. That really did, that day of filming didn't pan out like I wanted it to. But I'm gonna see if I can throw a little something together possibly. Dustin just purchased 5 Emergent Civil War books by myself and a duplicate copy of a book. The Emergent Civil War books. There's some on all of these battles that I just named, and a ton of more. And they are number one. If you guys are looking for an excellent source to be able to read and actually be able to serve as a tour guide of the battlefield, if you want to go to some of these battlefields, the Emergent Civil War books are your number one source. They are a tour guide plus the history of the battle rolled into one. You'll know exactly what you're looking at when you get there. You'll know exactly where you're going. There's directions in there. There's maps in there. There's tour maps in there that have everything numbered so you can quickly correspond to whatever you're wanting to see. And it's an excellent battlefield resource guide to keep in your backpack, in your pocket, when you go visiting these battlefields. Editing a video for the channel going to be almost 50 minutes. It was a fun video to film, but not liking the editing part. Yeah, if you guys didn't notice, the Shiloh video we just put up on the channel turned out to be probably the longest video I've ever posted on this channel, and the filming part is the fun part, okay? The editing part is the part that's not so fun. When they say something like for every minute of video footage that you film, there is an hour of editing for every minute, and it is the truth. That episode from Shiloh took us about a week to actually edit. And just what you saw, there was nothing in depth on that. And some of those episodes take an extremely long time, while others I could edit in an hour. There's a lot of them I can edit into 1 hour. I think the episode I'm putting out today from Montgomery took me 30 minutes to edit yesterday. So it's not very long. There wasn't very much to it, and it's just a quick edit. But yeah, man, Nick, videos like that, dude, you're gonna find that editing stinks on those. But hey, once it gets out there, it's worth every second you spend on it. So it's crucial to put that time and effort into the editing. Sometimes we don't have time to do that, but it is crucial. But coming up on our channel, you're going to see hopefully no videos that's an hour long, but we do have some cool stuff. We've also got Wilson's Creek coming. We've got the Trail of Blood on Ice campaign, and I am trying to finish up the first episode of that. That is a big project for this channel, and it is a big personal project for me. I've been putting a lot of research into that Trail of Blood on Ice campaign that takes place in 1861, simply because no one knows about it. It's a aspect of the American Civil War that is not touched on a whole lot. Not a lot of people know a lot about it. And there is a lot of information that is going to correspond with these. And I promise you guys are going to find it very interesting. You're going to learn something about the Civil War. Even if you're not into the American Civil War, I understand that. This channel is not turned to the just American Civil War. I'll get to why that is in a minute, that we're showing a lot of Civil War stuff. But, that is one of my favorite subjects, for one. And there's a lot of things with the American Civil War that not a lot of people understand, not a lot of people think about, or even know that happened. The Native Americans in the American Civil War, they're going through, they have been through the ringer. You're talking to someone that knows, because I have Native American roots, Native American background. I am a tribal descent member myself, even though I look like a snowflake and white as snow. But yes, I am a tribal descent member. I live on a Native American reservation. My grandma is a tribal member. My wife is a tribal member. So I have spent my entire life kind of growing up in the culture of that. And, I do know a lot about a Native American history. I just don't go into it a whole lot, like I do military history. But, the Trail of Tears, where I live, in an area I live, the place I live, the Trail of Tears had a direct impact. This is going to be an awful, awful, awful time in our period. General Andrew Jackson's, of course, going to order the removal of Native American tribes like the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Creek, or Muskogee, and other tribes as well. They're going to order the removal of them from here in southeast, the United States, to Oklahoma. So they're going to make their way through Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, all the way to Oklahoma, and that is going to become Indian Territory. In 1861, it is not the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma does not exist yet. It is still Indian Territory when the American Civil War kicks off in 1861. What ends up happening is factions of the Native American tribes. Earlier in 1813, there was something known as the Creek Indian Wars. That is where the Muskogee Creek tribe here in Lower Alabama, Upper Alabama are going to split into two factions, and they're going to fight amongst the tribe. This is kind of going to happen again in 1861 at the start of the American Civil War. Half of these Native American tribes, such as the Muskogee in Oklahoma, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, the Seminole. There's a lot of these tribes there, and they cannot agree whether they want to be pro-Union or pro-Confederate. And there's a lot of thought too. We just don't want to get in the middle of this thing. And so what ends up happening is, with the events of Bleeding, Kansas, and the events that's taking place there in Missouri, there's going to be a lot of animosity come up between these tribes. A lot of the tribal members from all of these tribes are either going to go pro-Union or pro-Confederate. And what ends up happening is a split again. And the pro-Union Native American factions are going to try to make their way to Kansas eventually, because Kansas is pro-Union. They'll be safe there. They can get refuge. And there's been a lot of things done to these people over the past few years. I mean, this has been almost a genocide or has been a mass genocide. I mean, there's a lot of negativity there already. I mean, could you imagine getting removed from your home, putting this to a land that's barren? And I promise you, Oklahoma is barren. It is a very, very hostile environment to, at this time frame, to actually have to live in. The winters get very cold, and the summers can get very hot, and there's a lot of plains, and there's just not as much of the way of life as they're used to having here in the southeast United States. So when I get to Oklahoma, it's a shock. It's an adaptation, and there's a lot of animosity already floating around between these tribes when the Civil War starts. And then you look at them and say, okay, do you want to be Confederate or Union? And this just makes things worse. And they end up splitting again, much like they did in 1813, except this time it involves several Native American tribes, just not the Muskogee. And what ends up happening is that there are a series of battles going to be fought. There's going to be one individual who's going to take command of the pro-Union forces, and he is going to, they're going to wage war basically among the tribes, with, of course, some of the Union regulars spilling in, Confederate regulars spilling in. So we're going to have, places like the Battle of Honey Springs and several other battles that you will see coming up on that series that are going to be very neat to explore as we try to unravel this history of the Trail of Blood on Ice a little bit, because it's not something that a lot of people know about, simply because there's not a lot of information on it. So there's been some historians. There's one in particular that wrote a book called "When the Wolf Cries," if I'm saying it right. But it's an excellent book. I do have it. It's an excellent book, and this is really the only historian I have found that has actually written anything really kind of, going in depth a little bit to these events and this campaign. So it's a really cool thing for me to dive into. It's something I have a lot of background in association with. I have an area of interest there because of where I live, my affiliations with the people, and it's really neat for me to dive into and try to preserve that piece of history, or do my part to preserve that piece of history. But there is a Honey Springs battlefield in Oklahoma, and we go there, and gosh, let me tell you, it's one of the coolest battlefields I have been to. They have an excellent museum, and those people there are so knowledgeable. That will really come across in this episode. So hopefully that will be out. The goal was to shoot for later this weekend. So hopefully that will be out. I don't want to, twist my arm if I'm wrong here. But I'm doing everything I can to get it out to you guys this week. If not, it'll be out early part of next week, because it is a lot of editing concerning this. So Nick, that is I'm experiencing that right now, as what you just said. So there's a lot that goes into these videos, and especially when you're putting a little bit more in depth on things like that. There are some other big things in the works right now. I'm not going to reveal it yet. I'm gonna keep you guys kind of on the edge of your seat. There's some things going on right now, that we have in the works here, and some places I'm looking at going. So there's some big things coming up on the channel as far as what I've said that is coming up. And we actually leave for Los Angeles later on in May. We've kind of pushed it back to May. So we're leaving for Los Angeles in a few weeks now. And I don't really want to go to Los Angeles, to be honest with you. But I am kind of looking forward to going to Los Angeles. I've never been to Los Angeles. I've been through Los Angeles, through the airport. That was kind of enough for me. But hey, I'll be able to say I got the Los Angeles experience. And you never know. I may find something really cool. It may be a cool trip. So those are a few updates on what's coming on the channel. That I get long-winded as usual here. But I hope you guys are doing good. We do have some merch. It is linked here. Some new merchandise, t-shirts, stickers. I hate the word merch. I don't know why. Good morning, Paul. But I hate the word merch. I don't know why I do. I just don't like it. So, but we do have some new items for you guys to go purchase here, such as t-shirts and some stickers and decals, and there's going to be more coming up too. I've got the new logos coming for designs on the shirts, so that'll be on here soon. Yeah, so be sure to go see the new episode today. Right after you get off here, it should be posted. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for your continued support here on the channel. I can't wait to, push forward on this adventure and see where we wind up at next. It's as much of an adventure and experience as it is for you and me personally. So we kind of do this together here, which is really cool. So yeah, a lot coming up, a lot to watch, a lot to dive into, a lot to see, and a lot to learn together. I need to contact JD and Eric Dorr and see what all can be bought back from Europe. I don't know. That would be a question for those guys for sure. I don't know how all of that works. I wish I did, but I really don't. Yeah, contact them and see Nick. As far as us here, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to get the mop cut off of my head and do some other things I need to get done today. And it's going to be a cool adventure going forward. Just had a beard on my World War II display and fight for Springfield Armory. Awesome. That's cool, man. Adding all kinds of stuff to that display. Some neat personal items too. Paul's talking about a World War II display that he sets up at some events, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It's really neat. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, let me get off here because I am, as you can see, pulling up. I have some cool rifle pits to send you today. Send them over, man. Send them over, and we'll try to chat at some point. We haven't been able to get together yet. It's been kind of crazy around here. But yeah, let me get off here, guys. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna get this mop cut off and see if they can make a wig out of it. Anyway, until next time, thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. Share the channel with your friends, please. Best way to spread the word around. And we are going to continue on here, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a good one. Thank you, Paul. You too, buddy. And I'm going to get off here and go get this mop chopped off up underneath this hat. And we'll see you on the next live stream. Thank you for joining me this morning, and I can't wait to do this again.